All right, chord inversions. Now this is very important and this is a very easy concept to get. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the piano. I'm gonna show you my rule of chord inversions. Now I didn't make this up, but here it is. See this C major chord here? This is what you call C major in root position. Now why do we call it root position? Simply because the root of the chord is on the bottom. Now what do you mean the root of the chord? If I call this a C major chord, the root is C. It's the keynote. It's pretty much the name of the chord. It's where we get the name for the chord. So when I have that note on the bottom, if that note is the lowest note, that chord is said to be in root position. Now when you take that keynote away and you move it up here to the top, thus leaving what we call the third of the key on the bottom, and you got to know your numbers, E is the third of C. It's the major third of C. When your chord has the third on the bottom, it's said to be in first inversion. So you got root position down here, you got first inversion up here, and it's because the third is on the bottom. So we got the one on the bottom or the root, the third on the bottom, and then when you take that third and you move it to the top, thus leaving the fifth on the bottom, that's what we call second inversion. So basically it's 1, 3, 5. 1 on the bottom is root, 3 on the bottom is first inversion, 5th on the bottom is second inversion. Now here's the rule. How many ever notes that are in the chord is how many inversions or how many different ways you can play that chord. Inverting is just to convert the chord so that another tone is on the bottom, another tone is on the top. So this is the normal chord. How many notes are in this chord? How many unique notes? There are 3. So that tells us that there are 3 different ways to play this chord. Root, first, and second inversion. Now, what if we start to play a bigger chord that you're going to learn in the future? Now, it doesn't matter if you don't know this chord already. You're going to learn it. Because now we're playing 4 notes in the chord. That means how many different ways are there to play this chord? You guessed it, 4. So there's 4 ways to play this chord. Let's go back to our piano. You got root position because the first tone is on the bottom. Take that off the bottom, move it to the top. Now you got first inversion. Now JP's gonna tell you that he really doesn't like that up here. That C, especially if you're gonna be playing it on your bass. But you'll get into voicings later. Now, voicings are different than inversions. Of course, you can play major 7. I mean, that's one of my favorite ways to play it. I mean, you could do like nice, jazzy stuff. That's not what I'm talking about here. You can voice this so many different ways. You could double up on stuff. You can omit certain things. Voicings are different. Voicings are more style and creativeness and stuff. Inversions are just really different ways to play the chord when you're including every note. And when you're not taking away stuff, there's really no creativity there. So you got root, first inversion. I like that one. Something about that tension in the middle. I use that a lot, especially with an A bass note. That creates what we call a minor 9. Okay, so with the third inversion, it's a little different because now you have the 7th of the chord, the 7th degree of the scale. You have that on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B is the 7th degree or 7th tone of C. So we're playing that on the bottom. And it's probably one of the more easier ones to remember because if you just play a regular major chord and then back up a half step behind your root, we know that C is the root of this chord, back up a half step, and now you got B. So that's pretty simple. That really puts this thing into perspective. If you want to play a D major 7 chord, you can go to your root inversion of the D major chord, which is D, F sharp, and A, back up a half step, that 7th tone right behind it, and now you have your major 7 chord. If you want to do the G major 7 chord, well, start with your GBD. Start with your GBD root inversion, and then add that 7th tone right and back. That's an F sharp, so now you get your nice G major 7 chord. What inversion are we in though? We're in our third inversion because That seventh tone is on the bottom. So I guess as you move up thirds, you start with root, then you go to first inversion, up a third, then you go to second inversion, up another third, then you go to third inversion, up another third. Even when you get into ninth chords, you know, this is third inversion, but hey, if you're playing a ninth chord and you choose to play the ninth on the bottom, I know I'm getting ahead and you're gonna cover ninth chords in a moment, but that would be fourth inversion. You know, as you go up, as you move this way with the chord, and that note becomes the root, the bottom of the chord, not the root, but the bottom, then your number inversions move up, okay? And it becomes first, second, third, fourth. You can go all the way up to fifth, sixth inversion. Now it gets a little crazy, but you can do it, okay? So just to recap, root, first, second, third, if we want to play major seventh. I mean, just to elaborate on this whole concept of inversions, you won't use this one as practically as the rest, but you could do a fourth inversion with bigger ninth chords. Let me show you one of those. It looks like this. Look at the 9 is on the bottom. You got the third, the fifth, the seventh, and the root, and it would look something like that. You know, that's a crazy chord. Now, most people wouldn't put the root up there because you're going to play it on your bass, you know, so you can make it sound like that. That's a particular voicing or inversion that people prefer, but you won't get into all that, you know, because then with voicings, you'll be playing different things anyway at that point. But that is inversions for you, okay? So by now you should know root, you should know what that means definitively. First inversion, second inversion, even third inversion, and you got the formula to do fourth, fifth, even sixth inversions with 13 chords and stuff, because the number of notes in the chord dictates what? How many different ways in terms of inversions you can play that chord. Not voicings. Now we can go infinity. We can do all kinds of things, double up on notes and creative stuff. We can do all that stuff, but that's not inversion. Inversions is the order of notes, what you choose to put on top and bottom in terms of the structure of the chord. So in the next segment, you'll get my good friend JP taking you even further.